Despite getting to bed very late the previous night, we were up at 4 a.m. and heading down into the valley long before sunrise to set up an ambush. In theory, it was the perfect prologue to a brilliant hunting story. The nice thing about an ambush situation is that you have time. So we'd identified a part of the farm where we knew there'd been a lot of kudu activity. It's the same spot where we had seen that large bachelor herd a couple days earlier. And so in preparation for a potential long shot, I found a nice position to lie down prone, got all my equipment out, ranged various points on the opposite hill so that I knew more or less what I would have to dial for each of them. When I hunt, I don't pursue long-range shots for the sole purpose of taking a long-range shot. It's an arrow in my quiver, so to speak, in that if I get an opportunity at long range and the animal doesn't come close, I'm actually able to take it. We knew with absolutely no wind on that day, anything within, let's say, 700 or 800 meters would be going down. The kudu has a pretty large vital zone. We're shooting 208 grain Hornady ELDMs at pretty good speeds out of 300 WSM, so they would cut through the air pretty well. They wouldn't drop too much and they would hit with some authority. Right, so it's our second morning of hunting here. Got up nice and early. We got up at 4 to make sure we get out here before the sun rises, because as soon as the sun starts coming up, as soon as it starts getting light, the kudu are going to start moving and finding spots where they can sun themselves. This is how I like to hunt, having some time to set up, not having to rush anything and take a hurried shot and see what happens.
A lot of people have the impression that long range hunting is lobbing bullets at animals and just shooting till you can hit them. Obviously people differ to myself. If I've got an animal that's a distance off, the measures you take to ensure that you'll get a good hit or clean miss, you get the animal facing in the direction of the wind, you dial for the anticipated wind. You're either hitting it behind the shoulder. If you got the wind wrong, you're going onto the shoulder. If you've got it completely wrong, you're going off the front. That's a clean miss, there's nothing in it.
We had our tracker with us. We had obviously NICO and myself. So between the three of us, we had eyes on every possible spot. The three of us were glassing all the time. No kudu showed up. And unfortunately, as the morning progressed and as it started to get lighter and heat up, in the time when you would normally see movement of kudu through that area, we saw some NYALA, we saw some impala, but not a single kudu. And after just sitting there for a few hours, we realized that we actually had to change tactics. Otherwise, we were going to lose a whole morning of good hunting.
We sat there most of the morning, spotted plenty of NYALA, plenty of impala, saw some kudu cows, but the bulls were just nowhere to be seen. We limited time to hunt. The weather prediction saying it would be going close to 40 degrees Celsius for the day. 39 was the prediction. And so we set up. We knew we would probably only have till about 10 o'clock before it would just be too hot to hunt. This tactic didn't seem like it was going to work, and even though it's called the Vapor Trail series, if conditions don't allow it, we don't go out and sit for hours and just wait for long range shots. If they're not on, if the conditions aren't right for them, you have to adapt and do what the conditions press you to do. And basically what it came down to is that we had to keep moving.
But as we started moving around, we just had to grin and bear it. It started getting very hot, but we spotted a couple groups of kudu on different spots in the valley. The one group we spotted, we sat and glassed at for a while, but we only saw kudu cows. No bulls in the group, but we did get some awesome scope cam footage of those cows, just to show you how clear that NEXUS is with the scope cam on. And then a little bit later, maybe half an hour later, we spotted one kudu bull that was quite young. You could see it had quite a thin neck, and it wasn't the sort of animal that we were wanting to go after, but we decided to follow it anyway, just in case there may have been more shootable kudu bulls just on the other side of the hill. We put on a bit of a stalk, put the rifle over my shoulder. NICO grabbed the camera, started hiking up a very steep hill. It was so steep that the dog actually couldn't get up. And we felt a few times that if we slipped, we'd probably tumble all the way down to the bottom. But we kept on going in the heat. got to the top and absolutely nothing. The grey ghost of Africa had ghosted us once again, and we had to trudge all the way back down to the truck empty-handed.
Well, I'll tell you what gets me. It's not the fact that we have to walk far. It's the, I mean, look how steep we are. We have to, you know, if you spot some kudu, it's a walk up one of these hills. The hill just seems to never end because you've got these little terraces that go up, and every time you're over a terrace there's another one above you. I think we're gonna call it a morning and see if we can get something else somewhere else that might be a little bit easier to get. The kudu is kind of like the main goal because they're such special animals, and to get a big bull kudu is really cool. But yeah, it's that's hunting. Sometimes you just don't get them.
After a short lunch, we headed back up to the higher altitude part of the farm where the temperatures are a little bit cooler, where it's a little bit greener, to look for a Reedbuck ram. Now, we'd been pursuing a Reedbuck ram previous few days with no luck. We'd seen everything but a common Reedbuck, and it was much of the same this time around. We saw some NYALA strutting through the thick bush on the opposite side of the valley. We saw zebra, we saw wildebeest, we saw duiker, we saw pretty much everything you can think of. A lot of mountain reedbuck as well, but once again, after a long day, we ended up empty-handed, and we're left scratching our heads thinking how an area which is known to have so many common reedbuck could show up with almost nothing. It was very strange. So at the end of day 3, it was once again the animals that had the upper hand and the hunters that went home with nothing.
You can see the hyena tracks in the road from, looks like early this morning. They still look quite fresh. We travelled up and down this road yesterday, and these are our tracks we left in the midday, and then some more vehicles went out late afternoon, and all these tracks are after that. You can see it came straight up the road. Some good sign. Maybe get a chance on them a bit later.
So, day 4. I don't even want to talk about day 4. Day 4 started off pretty much the same as day 3, perfectly planned ambush in the same spot as the previous morning. We knew that if a kudu had shown up, it would have been game over. It was such a good position. There was no wind once again. It would have been perfect, but just our luck or lack of luck, nothing showed up. And it's not like there weren't any kudu. You know, just a couple days before, we'd seen a massive herd of like 15 animals in one group, which is very, very rare. And so many good bulls in that group. So we knew they were around. It was just, they just didn't show up in that spot on that morning. And I think I actually stopped filming for most of the day. We were just really tired and really disheartened, and you know, it came to a point where I didn't want to have to manage the camera and the battery life and the microphones and all of that. I just wanted to get that kudu down. I think the highlight of the day, surprisingly, was actually the lunch. We were able to pull in at the camp once again, that beautiful camp in the valley, put some more meat on the fire, sit in the shade, drink some water, and relax a bit, which is something we hadn't done much of over the past few days. I had one fleeting opportunity on a reedbuck towards the end of the day, a pretty nice reedbuck actually. I was kind of in a very awkward position, but behind the sentinel tripod in the long grass. I could have taken him, but just as I'd set up, just as I'd pushed that bolt forward, he started bolting, and as I watched him running away through the scope, it dawned on me that this was probably the end of my hunting trip. We had one more morning the next morning, but with only a few more hours of hunting left in the trip, I realized that I probably had to let go of my ambition to get this reedbuck ram. And to be honest, it was quite a freeing moment. I felt like just the pressure left me, the pressure that I put on myself. And from that point onward, I think I actually started enjoying being at that farm a little bit more. You know, I didn't have this thing weighing on my back that I had to get this animal down. I was able to just let go, have peace, put everything down and say, it's over, let's enjoy it. And funnily enough, that's when things started turning for me.
That night, I said to Matt, we've hunted hard for 2 or 3 days. Let's come home, have a beer, fry some meat, just relax, take it easy. And then while we were doing that, we were actually chatting about it, and it's not all about getting the animal, it's about everything else, and we've spent a good amount of time together. We're not going to find the Reedbuck. It's a good excuse for Matt to come back again, so we're pretty happy that we had that excuse. And while speaking like that, I had this thing in the back of my mind that normally when you say like, okay, let's just go for a drive and we're not really pushing for it, that's when things happen.
We woke up the next day with absolutely no urgency whatsoever. We got up late, we had a nice breakfast, and with a few hours to go before I was supposed to head home, we decided, you know what, let's just go for a game drive and see what we can spot. The weather had totally changed from the previous few days. The temperature had plummeted down probably 15 to 20 degrees Celsius lower than it was the day before. It was wet, there was thick fog. It looked like a completely different world that we were in. And as we started moving down into the valley and seeing animals everywhere, animals that we hadn't seen the previous few days, a thought crept into my head, could this be one of those typical 11th hour scenarios where everything just pulls together at the last moment? And I looked back behind me in the truck to make sure my rifle was with me. It was, and we thought, you know what, we might just get an opportunity here. All of a sudden, seemingly out of absolutely nowhere, NICO spots something out the corner of his eye. He pulls out his binos and takes a look, and I hear the excitement in his voice as he said, "Matt, there's your Reedbuck." And I was expecting it was just to be another mountain Reedbuck ram or something, but it was the one we were after. I look across the valley and I just see this animal standing broadside looking right at me. This one horn out to the side, another horn facing forward, an animal with quite a lot of character, and take my rifle out and we start walking.
We quickly had to put a stalk in on him, get into a decent position and get a shot, but like totally unexpected, and exactly the same place we've been looking for him for 3 days. I said to Matt, he's either in this valley. When he's not in this valley, he's in this valley. That's where they hang out. And all the females in the mountain Reedbuck that had been there the day before were there again, but there he just stood, and both of us couldn't believe our eyes. But yeah, we got into shooting range, shooting position.
As I started preparing to take the shot, he started walking off and I had to shift position once or twice. I was concerned that he might move over the top of the hill, but I knew that he would at least stop once or twice before he got to the position and would give me a second or two to actually take the shot. And he was within 200 meters, so I wasn't too concerned about that. Frustratingly, because we weren't expecting to hunt on that morning, I had not charged my scope cam batteries, and as I hit record, it didn't beep, and I realized the battery was flat, which I was really disappointed about. I really wanted to get that shot through the scope cam, but I pulled the scope cam off, chucked it to one side, made sure NICO was on the animal, closed the bolt, and as he stopped at what I thought was around 200 meters away, I held a little bit higher just to be safe and squeezed off the trigger, and he dropped on the spot.
Yeah. Okay, when he stops again, I'm on him. You just take him when he stops. He'll stop at the top there now. Okay, he's going to come out. There we go. Well done, he's down.
Well, finally, hey. I mean, we've been out here for I think 3 days straight, just trying to find these Reedbuck. And the strange thing is, you know, NICO tells me this place is full up with Reedbuck here, and there's not many mountain reedbuck, and we've been coming here the past few days seeing loads of mountain reedbuck and no reedbuck, and it's your typical situation where everything you're not hunting is all over the place and everything that you are hunting is just gone. Didn't have time to range, just held, you know, sort of a little bit high on it, and took the shot, and 300 put him straight down. So really happy with that. It's a great way to end my hunting trip here.
Nice. Yeah, it looks like I hit him pretty high, but I'm just thinking now it's probably a bit closer from here. It looks like it's a bit closer than 200 meters, and I was shooting at a bit of an incline, so I probably hit exactly where I aimed, but he went down. That's all that matters, so really happy with that. So what's nice about this ram is he's got a bit of character. You can see the one horn is kind of a little bit back and more straight up, and the other one's coming out. It'll actually look quite nice, I think, with like a European skull mount or something, just so you can see that the character in its horns and make that stand out. But yeah, really happy. Nice old ram. We worked hard for him, which makes the feeling of getting him down even sweeter. Yeah, it couldn't have worked out better on the last morning, eh? And I've got some meat to take home now as well, so happy with that. I'd like to just first and foremost give a huge thanks to Nico. You guys don't see the amount of preparation he put in for this, and just how organized he was when I arrived, and just he's been such a good host to me, and it's just been, you know, aside from the hunting, just such a nice opportunity to catch up as friends and to talk about life and talk about shooting, and you know, that's what this is all about for me. So even if we hadn't got this guy, I would have gone home with a smile on my face, but to get him has been it's been fantastic. I just want to say thanks to Splitting Image Taxidermy. They've also been just supporting me over the last while, and are probably going to help me get this guy mounted. Super happy about that, and I can go home with an extra big smile on my face. It was a pretty steep hill that he was on, so the retrieval wasn't too fun, but thankfully it wasn't a massive animal like a kudu, and thankfully he wasn't too far to the road, so we probably had about only 100 meters or so that we had to pull him up the hill to the truck. But something pretty funny happened after that. The Python incident, which it's now called, between the truck and the animal that we needed to take to the truck was a little piece of high grass, and as Nico was walking back along the road to go fetch the truck, I heard him scream like a little girl, and it turns out his foot was probably a few centimeters away from a massive python that was obviously out in the sun trying to heat up. You could see the rain droplets all over its back. It was obviously quite cold, and I think it's a good thing that it was cold, otherwise it might have felt a bit more freedom to get its butt into gear and strike at Nico, in which case I would probably have to come and rescue him. But that was pretty funny.
You want to tell me what just happened, Nico? I nearly stepped on a python. You don't want to slip down and fall on top of him, eh?
I was standing right next to him where the little bramble's coming down, trying to sort out the bramble, and the next thing I just saw that. Fastest 10 meters of my life.
We now have to try and move the python out the road, because there's the truck down there and there's the python, and we don't want to drive over him, so Nico's got the fun job of having to poke the snake. It became Nico's job to fetch a stick and slowly prod it to get it moving out the way, and we heard it exhaling as a warning to us, which sounded like a tire being deflated. It was a pretty scary sound.
And I said to him, well, we need to move it to drive there, and I'm scared of snakes, so I'm not moving it. And Matt says, well, he's also scared of snakes, he's not moving it either. And we get up onto this embankment so it can't get us, and we're standing there throwing little clots down because it's not moving, it's so cold, and we didn't know if it was dead or just cold. That's a big flippin' python, eh?
He also decided to strike at Nico a few times, which was pretty funny to watch. But eventually, after putting up a bit of a resistance, he moved off on his way and we were able to drive past.
After the Python experience, got the Reedbuck loaded onto the van. Matt still had to leave the same afternoon, so we got it to the skinning shed. Being one of Matt's like species he really wanted to hunt, we did a nice cape on it, got it salted, got it in the freezer, and quickly started optimizing the meat. We basically just broke the animal into big pieces that it was still very fresh, and we just took out a section of backstrap, something I wanted to show Matt. They're called Kalahari prawns. They're not prawns at all, it's actually venison meat. You'll see we did, I've showed where we cut the meat up and we prepare it with garlic, herb, barbecue spice, and then you basically put it in some flour, egg, and just deep fry them till they're medium rare. Often when you get to a hunting trip, you've got a list this long of things you want to do. It needs to be this and it needs to be that, and I want this and I want that. And especially in Zululand, where you work hard for your animals, the further you walk, the shorter the list becomes. So eventually, like 2-3 days into the hunt, the list just says Reedbuck, and you're not even sure if it's a male or a female anymore. You're just willing to take whatever the felt gives you, and that just shows you the way hunting can go. And you need to appreciate it and take it for what it is. There are so many places now where you can just hunt animals on demand, just pay for it and get what you want, and they're there in little paddocks, and it's not really hunting. You like to hunt true wild areas where you can get anything or nothing. It can go either way. That's the real pursuit of hunting and what it's all about, you know. Being willing to take the chance and putting in all the effort and doing all the preparation just to come home empty-handed, and still have enjoyed it so much that you'd be willing to just go back and do it again, you know.
It was a massive honor and privilege to get to explore and experience and hunt a part of the country that was a first for me. So regardless of the outcome, it would have been and has been an experience that I will remember and cherish for the rest of my life.